You are listening to the Intelligent Racer Podcast, where we look to educate and entertain the endurance racing community through discussions with racing professionals and elite age groupers.
In today's episode, I speak with Flora Duffy. She's a professional triathlete who has competed in 3 Olympic Games, including the 2016 Rio Olympics. She also won 3 world titles in 2016, including 2 off-road triathlon titles. We talk about this amazing season and other topics. I hope you enjoy. Flora, welcome to the podcast. How are you doing today?
Hey, I'm good, thank you. I'm kind of cold. I'm in Boulder, and the temperatures have dropped.
Oh yeah, I'm in New York City, and it's like 20 degrees. So it was mild up to this point, and now it's super cold. So
yeah,
the winter is here. So why don't we start off our conversation just talking about how you got started in triathlons and what was the catalyst to eventually make it a profession?
Well, I started off doing triathlon actually when I was I think 7 or 8 years old in Bermuda. So that's where I was born and raised. So I'm kind of a rare person, a rare one that's been doing triathlon basically my whole life. So yeah, I did every local triathlon there was in Bermuda, was in a swim club, did all the running races, and I don't know, it was just my thing. That's just what I have, always wanted to do. And then at about 16, I decided that I needed to move away from Bermuda if I really wanted to pursue triathlon. So I went to a boarding school in England for a couple years, and that sort of exposed me to the whole, triathlon in the UK. Again, that was a great stepping stone. Went to my first Commonwealth Games in 2006, and sort of, I guess, from about 2006 at 18, started racing on the ITU circuit, as I was finishing up high school, starting going into college. And that's kind of led me to this point where I am now, racing full-time in 2016.
Cool. I am wildly jealous of the fact that you started young. I started triathlons in my 30s, and I wish I swam and did all the sports when I was younger, because it's definitely one of those things that would help. And I would assume the open water access in Bermuda probably helped with your swimming. Was there a lot of opportunity to swim in the ocean there?
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're surrounded by beautiful ocean, crystal clear, warm water. So, going to the beach every day to swim is not a weird thing to do. It's sort of normal.
Yeah.
But we also have a really great swim club. So I'm very thankful my parents, forced me to go. I wasn't super into it, but thankfully I went and did all those years of swimming, because it's really, it's a huge part of my racing style now.
Yeah, for sure. And, it's funny. I went down to St. Croix for a swim race down there last season, and there's a swim club there, and the kids there are absolutely incredible to, just have that access to that ocean and get comfortable with it. And then amazing what they were doing in the 5-mile race. They, the second place was a kid, and I think he was 12 or 14 years old. I mean, it was incredible. So I'm very jealous. The open water I have is the Hudson River in New York City, so I'm not going in there too often. So
no, I don't blame you.
So, that's an exaggeration. There are nice beaches. So I'm going to get some heat for that one from my friends. But so let's turn to 2016, which is an incredible year for you. I mean, you were at the Olympics, and then you've also won 3 world titles. So, you won the ITU World Triathlon Series World Championship. You won the ITU Cross Triathlon World Championship and the 2016 XTERRA World Championship. So I don't think you could ask for a better year, but can you just sort of talk about that a little bit? I mean, how did it all kind of come together, and just kind of your thoughts for the season? And congratulations, by the way.
Thank you. 2016, it's probably all just settling in now. It's kind of been a whirlwind. I started the year 2016, obviously, with the focus on Rio and figuring out how I could, have my best race there. And sort of along the way, I think firstly I grew in confidence a lot from 2015. I think I had 2 WTF podiums that year and finished up the year 7th in the world. So that was a huge stepping stone for me. And so going on into 2016, I just wanted to build off of that. My goal was to be consistent in every single race. And by that I was like, okay, if I finish top 10 in every single WTS race, that'll be a fabulous year. And then I started off the year and you're fourth, and then you have another fourth, and then you're third, and then after that third, you end up leading the series, and then you go into the next race, which is Leeds, and you're wearing the gold numbers, and then you finish second, and then you win in a WTS race, and I was just sort of rolling with it, not overthinking it, just going in there and just going to execute the race how I wanted to, and that's just kind of what I did, and it, with it ending winning the World Championships in Cozumel was sort of mind-blowing and something I'd always wanted to achieve since I was a little kid starting triathlon. So to do it was really, really cool. And I guess to do it in a way that played to my strengths, like I made the race play to my strengths, made it a hard swim, bike, run, which I think that was probably the coolest part of the race, is that, didn't sort of wait around to do something on the run. It's like, no, it's like I knew I needed to get this done. And so I really went for it. And that's probably been the thing I've been the happiest with this year is just having the confidence just to go, just to race hard. And if I blow up, I blow up. But if I don't, it's probably going to work out pretty well.
Yeah, I like that approach. That's really cool. So for those that are not familiar with the ITU WTS series, can you just kind of explain it a little bit for us and how kind of, the point system works? And also one of the really cool things about the series is you get to travel all over the world. So maybe you can talk a little bit about that.
Yeah, so the World Triathlon Series, which I refer to as the WTS series, it spans like basically across the world. I believe it's 8 races. And to be in the series, it's your best 5 races plus the grand final. And the grand final was in Cozumel, Mexico this year. And each race, the points are weighted the same, except for the grand final in Cozumel, which I think is 1.5 points. I'm not entirely sure. So it makes it very important to race well in Cozumel. And the year started off in Abu Dhabi, and we went Abu Dhabi, Australia, Cape Town, into Europe, stopped off at the Rio Olympics, then Edmonton, and then finished in Cozumel. You kind of go around the world and back again, but you go to, some incredible places. And I think my favorite stop this year was probably Stockholm, for 2 reasons. One, I do really love the course and the place. It's beautiful, and we get to ride on some cobbles, and it's a technical course, and it's incredibly scenic. And then the second reason is that was the first WTS race that I've ever won. So that's always going to be a special place to me. It's a really cool series, and pretty fun to do. Get to do that for a living.
Yeah, that sounds awesome to be able to see all those different countries and those different courses. And your world championship did come down to Cozumel, right? And so you went into that knowing you had a shot, but you didn't have it locked up, right? So what was the mental approach there? And I guess it was to go all out, but how did you approach that last race to kind of close it out?
Yeah, so going into Cozumel, Cozumel was a month basically exactly after Rio Olympics. So, firstly, you had to collect yourself, regroup, and focus for Cozumel. After the big build into Rio. So there was that component. And then for me, I was going into Cozumel leading, but I had a very, very small lead over Gwen Jorgensen, who had just won the gold medal at the Olympics and was also the two-time defending world champion. So I knew I had quite the pressure on me. Like I needed to do something to have the best race of my life if I wanted to win this. And I don't know, it's kind of strange. Like I think I felt a lot of pressure and expectation going into Rio. And then once that was done, it was just like a layer of pressure removed. Yeah. And just going into Cozumel, I was like, Flora, just do your thing. Just do what you usually do. Swim, bike, run as best as you can. Make the race hard. Take a chance. Because second place, the gap between where Gwen and I were and where third place was pretty substantial. So I thought, you can risk it because the worst thing that happens is you're second in the world. Like that's still incredible. But, you've got to go for the win. Yeah. And in my head, that's just how I always race. You've got to go for it. And so, yeah, that's just kind of what I did. And, obviously Cozumel, it was very hot and humid. And so that played into my advantage coming from Bermuda. It was sort of just, well, this is just like summer at home. This is great. Whereas I think everybody else was just a little bit worried about the heat, humidity, hadn't been exposed to it as much. And that definitely played a role in the race. Yeah, just the thing is just to execute the best race that I could on the day. And then, during the race, obviously the swim and the bike went just how I wanted. I got in a nice breakaway with the two British girls. We worked together great, and I came off the bike a minute ahead of Gwen. And so in my head, this is when the race, it really got going. And I was like, okay, Flora, the goal is you've got to get through the first 5K without Gwen catching you, and then you reassess, and you must not get caught by second place.
Yeah.
Because to win the series, if Gwen won the race, I had to finish second. So I sort of had two objectives in my head. But then, the race, I'm running and I get to 5K and no one's caught me. And in fact, the gap hasn't closed. It might have opened a couple seconds. And I'm like, what the heck is going on? But, you're staying focused. And then the crowd all of a sudden just, I definitely went into the race as the underdog. And all of a sudden the crowd just were like, oh my gosh, I think she might do it. And so they all got behind me. And it was just this really, really incredible moment where almost everything came together, everything you train for and mentally prepare for. And boom, just there it was, just sort of unfolding. And I don't think, when I was running on the blue carpet about to win the race, that it all had clicked. It was just oh my gosh, you're just so in the moment. And I think you see a photo from me when I'm crossing the line, my face is just I'm trying to smile, which I am, but it's just shock and excitement and just what the heck just happened,
Yeah.
So it was a really, really incredible moment.
Yeah, no, that is absolutely awesome. It sounds like an incredible day because not only did you lock up the world championship, but you also won the race. So it just double, it's amazing. So congratulations. That's amazing. So let's talk about, we've been just talking about road triathlons, which is, a lot of people are familiar with, and that's what I compete in as an amateur. But, another area where you focus in and won 2 world championships in is on, the XTERRA and Cross Triathlon World, which is something I'm less familiar with, admittedly, although I follow it casually. So why don't you kind of explain that format for us in terms of what is that? What's the differences between that and road triathlons?
So XTERRA is off-road triathlon. So usually it's about the same distance as an Olympic distance. But obviously with the mountain bike, it takes a little bit longer. The course is a lot more technical and there's a lot of climbing. And so even if so the distance is a 1,500 meter swim, and then the bike is usually around 30 Ks and then a 10K run. But it's not as sort of standard. The distances do sort of vary a little bit. You might go to one race and it's actually a 37K bike and 11K run.
Yeah.
So it's pretty similar to Olympic distance. But obviously the bike is on a mountain bike and then the run is a trail run. Right. And usually the races take about 2.5 hours to 3 at the most. So it's substantially longer than Olympic distance.
To put into context, your Olympic distance on the road is what? Just to give it some context, closer to 2 hours, right? But what's the?
Yeah, about 2 hours.
Yeah. So it's substantially more, actually. 2.5 to 3 is on the road is slow for a professional, but on off road, it clearly shows the challenges of the terrain, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So I mean, you ride some really, really steep stuff, so it can be incredibly slow going, and yeah, it's just completely different from road triathlon.
How did you get introduced to this world? So you've been doing road triathlons, and was it just a cross training or being a product of living in Boulder where you got introduced to the mountain biking and the trail running that kind of attracted you to it? And
yeah, so I think a few reasons I got into it. One, I think, being here in Boulder, I went to University of Colorado. And when I was there, I joined the cycling team, and they had 2 seasons, road and mountain. And I paid club dues to be on the team, and you could do both seasons. So I was like, okay, well, I'll do mountain bike. So that's where I initially started, and I was terrible. Like, in fact, I see some people that I was on the team with now, and they're like, Flora, how the heck did you go from that to a world champion? So it proves, practice, and you can get better. So that, and then my coach, Neil Henderson, he's done a bit of off-road racing and always sort of pushed me to try it. And then the third, probably the biggest influence, is my boyfriend, Dan Hugo. He used to race XTERRA. So when we started dating, I was kind of taking a little bit of a break from road, ITU. I was trying to figure out if I wanted to continue. This was in 2014. And, had the mountain bike experience, enjoyed it, had a great person to learn everything from. And so, I just kind of jumped right into it, kind of head first. Definitely took a couple races to get the hang of it. In fact, I still definitely have a lot to learn. But it's just been really fun and a new challenge, and really it just ignited my passion for triathlon again. So I'd really encourage anyone to try off-road racing. It's just such a whole different vibe to road side of triathlon.
Yeah, I'm sure. And do you do specific training for it, like doing actual mountain biking sets and things? I mean, how do you break up your season? Obviously, the WTF series or whatever is going on for a good portion of the year. And so are you actually doing specific training, or are you like, my cardio base is there and you already have some of the technical skills, so you don't do as much specific training? How do you approach it?
Yeah, well, so it's a little bit of both. I was racing more XTERRA in 2014, so I was doing a lot of specific, XTERRA training then. So riding my mountain bike more, doing more intervals on trail, just sort of those sorts of things. Whereas 2015 to now, I sort of focused a bit more on the WTF series, so I had to balance the two. But I spent half of the year in Stellenbosch, South Africa, and basically December through April. This year's a little different. And while I'm there, the trails are incredible. So I ride my mountain bike probably 90% of the time, even if I am preparing for a WTF season, just because it's just so fun, and do a lot of my sessions on my mountain bike. So I do a lot then, and then when I come back to Boulder, sort of jump back onto the road bike, and it's more focused on the road scene, but your skills are sort of at a pretty decent level, and then ride my mountain bike while I'm here in Boulder a couple times a week just to keep the level up. And then after the WTF season finishes, I usually have about 5 weeks to prepare for XTERRA Worlds. And so then I just switch completely onto the mountain bike, and it's riding a bike. First couple rides, you're like, ooh, I don't feel that comfortable. And then you get the hang of it and you feel comfortable again, and do more specific intervals for, mountain bike, which thankfully with the mountain biking is very off on, sort of like ITU, you're like full gas and then it's off because you're descending, and then you're steep climbing and then you're off. And so very similar to ITU, where you're surging out of a corner and then you're in the pack and then you're surging again. And so it actually works pretty well.
In terms of trail running, do you do what percentage of your running throughout a season is on the trails when you train, whether it's for a road race or not, or, do you do a lot of trail running in Boulder or South Africa?
So I guess there's probably 2 types of trail. You've got your nice gravel trail where you can do some good K repeats, and then you have your real trail is what I like to think of it. And actually I'm not that very good of a trail runner. So I have to plan accordingly when I race in XTERRA. Can't let it come down to a trail run. I'm not the most agile of people. But while I'm here, I do like to get out on the trails. I mean, it's a lot more fun than pounding the pavement. And of course, living in Boulder, there's a lot of really great trails to run on. But I would say during my WTF season, I try to stay away from anything too technical. You don't want to trip, roll an ankle, or anything like that.
Yeah.
And then once that's over, then kind of go on to some more technical trails just to get comfortable with, running on single track and on rocks and, that sort of thing.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. There's a pretty technical trail race in the New York City area in May. It's up in Bear Mountain, which is a North Face event. And I every year I want to do it, but it's in May, which is right smack in the early part of the triathlon season. So I'm like, I really don't want to do that and sprain an ankle and then kind of blow up the rest of my season. So I could see where, if you're going to go super technical, you want to wait till kind of closer to the race and not kind of risk the other stuff. No, so that makes a lot of sense. So in terms of all the, amazing places you've been able to race, whether it's XTERRA or, road racing, do you have an all-time favorite venue or location, a race that you would recommend others, or a location others should go to do outdoor activities?
Well, of course, my first location of choice is always Bermuda, my home where I was born and raised. It's beautiful little island in the middle of the Atlantic, beautiful beaches, fun little roads to ride. It's just a great little island. So that's number one. And then in terms of races, let me think. Okay, so I'll narrow it down to my favorite XTERRA, which is XTERRA South Africa. I would highly recommend anyone that races off-road to try that one. It's incredible, and South Africa is it's just an amazing place. So you got a race and a holiday in one. And then on the road side of things, we think we race in so many cool places. It's kind of hard to narrow it down. We really I guess I'm going to go for two. They're both in Europe. One is the race in Hamburg because the crowds are insane and they just totally get behind triathlon there. So I know the age group race is also really, really popular. And yeah, they go triathlon mad for that week. So there, and then of course Stockholm, because it's beautiful and has a very different feel from the rest of Europe. And yeah, I love it there. So those would be my top favorites.
Yeah. So I guess because this is relatively timely, that recently, I think it was Alistair Brownlee announced that he's going to focus on some longer distances in the next couple of years before the next Olympics ramp up. Have you ever thought about competing at the half Ironman or Ironman distance? Is that something in your future, or are you sort of, focused on the Olympic distance because it better suits your strengths?
I definitely, I like the Olympic distance the most. And it's funny, everyone asks me that question, like, when are you going to go long? When are you going to go long? Like, really suit you? And I'm like, but it hasn't really I haven't had that moment where I'm like, yes, I'm going to go do this. But when I saw that 70.3 Worlds will be in South Africa in 2018, that kind of gave me a little bit of a spark of
yeah,
maybe I should try
that's
one
a sign.
of these things. Yeah. So I don't know, maybe I might dabble in one or two over the next few years to see if I like it. But probably won't make the full switch until after the Tokyo Olympics. So
right.
2021 is when I'll fully commit to 70.3. Can't see myself ever doing Ironman. It just doesn't sound fun.
In terms of 2017, what's on tap for that? Are you looking to continue to do both the WTS as well as looking to do more off-road stuff? Or are you focusing on anything specific?
Yeah, so going into 2017, that's actually funny. This year I said, I was adamant that 2017 was going to be a very different year. I was going to mix it up and do some fun races, do some stuff that takes me out of my comfort zone, race some more off-road. And then I won the series, the World Triathlon Series, and I thought, oh man, well, I think I better actually race that series next year.
You're the defending champ. So
I've got to. So yeah, next year it'll be racing on the WTF Series, but I am going to do a few non-draft events, Olympic distance. I'm hoping to do Escape from Alcatraz. That's been a bucket list race. So
cool.
I would love to do that, and a couple off-road races, but pretty similar. Set up to this year, maybe put a 70.3 in there somewhere. So we'll just have to see how the year unfolds.
Yeah. Escape from Alcatraz is one I've always was interested in doing. And for those not familiar with it, it's in San Francisco and starts out in the bay near Alcatraz, and you get to swim in the bay with the currents and the cold water and stuff. So it looks really like a lot of fun, and it's kind of a weird distance per se, but it's obviously a classic, so that would be a good one, and that's one on my bucket list as well. I guess one final question would be, what else is on that bucket list? Are there any other races that stick out to you as things you ultimately want to do, whether it's as a professional or just one day as a, someone who casually just wants to kind of check it out?
Yes, actually, a few things left on my bucket list are non-triathlon related. What I would love to do is race, go to a games like Commonwealth Games or something like that and race in a mountain bike race.
Yeah.
Or even do a mountain bike World Cup. So that's sort of on my bucket list, and something I've been toying with to try and pursue a little bit next year to maybe qualify for the 2018 Commonwealth for both triathlon and mountain biking. So there's that. And then there's a bunch of just really cool stage mountain bike races in South Africa that I'm dying to do, but they always conflict with, triathlon races, and it's hard to do both right now. So I think, once I finish with my competitive triathlon career, I'll definitely be doing a lot more mountain bike racing.
Yeah. Have you ever considered or looked at the mountain bike race in Leadville that goes along the running route? Because I talked to a lot of runners who've done that one. That one's pretty high up in the mountains, but, you're in Boulder, so it's not too far away, right?
Well, I don't know. It's at 10,000 feet. I like the 5,000 level.
Yeah.
But no, I'm actually one of my closest friends. She has done the running race, and I've paced her. And so actually we went over Hope Pass, which goes up to 12,000 feet. So just being exposed to that altitude, I was like, no way do I ever want to do any sort of high intensity racing up here. So although that's iconic, I'm going to stick to the shorter World Cup events.
Yeah, Hope Pass seems to change a lot of people's attitudes once they see her do it. It's notorious, so that makes sense. Well, Flora, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it, and thanks so much for sharing your highlights of 2016. It's been absolutely amazing season for you, and I look forward to 2017 and following that season for you. So thanks so much for your time.
Yeah, thank you very much for having me on.
Thanks for listening to the Intelligent Racer Podcast. For more information on this and other episodes, please visit www.intelligentracer.com. Also, be sure to check us out on social media, and please review us on your podcast directory. Join us next time for another edition of the Intelligent Racer.